Hey everyone, it's Kelsey here, and today I have a book review to share with you guys. So I recently finished reading this. It's called A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I thought this book was so good. I couldn't even believe it. So yeah, I had to talk about it with you guys. So you probably know I read a lot of young adult and youth fiction. I really love both those age ranges as far as the writing styles and the plots and the pacing goes in those types of books. So this is a young adult fantasy novel, and Sarah J. Maas has written another series of books called Throne of Glass, and I loved that series, and it's ongoing, so that series is not finished yet. But so I was definitely really anticipating this book, and I was not disappointed. There's been a couple books lately that I've been like too excited about and kind of got overhyped on the books, but this one was not one of them. This one definitely lived up to exactly everything that I had heard about it and my anticipation for months building up to it. So anyway, the synopsis. This girl, Feyre, she kills a wolf in the woods, and it turns out that this wolf is a fairy, so she is forced to go live in the fairy kingdom, where there is like a separation. The humans and the fairies do not mix. There was a treaty, and it's just bad stuff to mix. Since she killed a fairy, as part of the treaty, she must give her life or she must spend her life in the fairy kingdom. So she obviously chooses life and goes to live in the fairy kingdom. And there is a blight there and just all sorts of bad, evil stuff going on in the fairy kingdom. And she gets wrapped up in this. So first of all, I thought the world building was really good in this. It spends... even though she kills the wolf, like within the first several pages, it spends a little bit of time getting to know the treaty and the fairies and the human side of the world. So you kind of understand the world, and you understand her background, and you understand her family situation before she goes to the fairy kingdom. So you have some back history, but it doesn't take forever to get into it like it does in some books. Once it goes over to the fairy kingdom, the world building is slow but steady. It's just, I felt like the world building could have been a little bit better in the fairy kingdom. I would have liked a little bit more in-depth knowledge about the fairy world. But overall, I thought it was really good. I finished this book, and I thought it was a series, and then I finished it, and it wrapped up pretty neatly. And so I was like, well, maybe it's just a standalone book, but I do think it is part of a series, because whenever I put it into my Goodreads app, it called it book 1. So yay, more books in this series. I'm totally excited about that. So hopefully the world building will be more in depth in future books in this series. And by the way, just kind of a side note, what is up with authors starting a series and then in the middle of that series starting another series? So now I'm waiting on 2 different series to come out from this author. I don't know what is up with that. I don't know. But it's like a new trend I've seen, like with like 2 or 3 different series. So anyway, back to this book. So there is some romance in this book, which I thought was really well written, really well done. This book, the main character, Feyre, is 19, so it's definitely, it's kind of a crossover between a young adult book and an adult book. She feels a little bit younger. She feels like she's probably 16 or 17, but I think realistically, the way she like fed her family and cared for her family, obviously 19 is a realistic age. But then when she kind of goes to the fairy kingdom, she feels younger because it's a new atmosphere and a new world, and she's learning all of this stuff. And with the magic in the fairy kingdom kind of failing a little bit with this blight, she's coming at it from a really new and different perspective, while the people in the fairy world are still trying to figure out the blight and try to fight it off and whatnot. And here she is coming into it and not really knowing, because in the human world, all she's heard about are these horrible stories about fairies and how mean and evil they are. And obviously they're not, because there's romance. But yeah, so I would say the first half of this book was a little bit slower paced. It's got the world building, and then she's learning about the fairy world, and she's kind of falling in love with one of the fairy people, and just really learning her way through society there. And then the end is like racing. Like there's tons of action at the end. So I really, really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So yeah, probably 4.5 stars for this one. I did really, really enjoy it. There were just a couple of things that I wish were a little bit different. Like I said, I wish the world building were a little bit more in depth, even though I thought it was pretty good overall. And the romance is good in this book. Like I said, really well written, not cheesy. There was no love triangle, as there so often are. Well, I guess a little bit at the end, but it was like different circumstances. This was not your typical love triangle. I can't decide which boy to love. Yeah, I hate that. Anyway, so really good. Like I said, the pacing at the end is really, really quick. I loved the ending, and I loved the under the mountain part. I don't want to give any spoilers, but the under the mountain part I really loved, and I really love the male character in that section. So yeah, anyway, I would definitely pick this book up if you like reading fantasies, if you like reading trilogies where the book is a standalone book. I think this will turn out to be like one of those series where each book is standalone in the same world. And if you like young adult fantasy, well-written books with a little bit of romance, fairies, Beauty and the Beast retelling, yeah, this book pretty much has it all. So really high review for me. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend picking this up. So if you read this and you want to talk about it, leave me a note in the comment section below, and I would love to talk with you about it because I loved it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon with another book review or another scrapbook layout or just whatever I happen to be doing that day. So if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button to see more content soon, and have a great day, everyone.